I must admit, I woke up very stressed out this morning. I got a lovely letter from the IRS last week saying they need $4,600 by October 11th. So I'm like, okay, let's jam the E30 down to the smog shop. Let's wrap up this smog, get it registered in hopes that I can sell this thing in the near future. And so I get the results back and this thing failed miserably. As far as hydrocarbons go, the max is 120. To be a gross polluter, that's 270. We're measuring 421. As far as CO goes, max is 1%. 2.5 is gross polluter. We measured 1.6, so not as bad, but 421 definitely needs addressing. Now, I thought this thing was running pretty cherry last time I drove it after doing all those fluids, but I made it down the highway about 25 minutes, and as soon as I pulled into the smog shop, I could feel the idle start to bounce a little bit. So let me get this thing fired up. You guys can see how it's running. Let's see if we can fix it today. Now, on top of that little stumble at idle, the top end is still a little bit noisy. So I'm thinking we'll pull the valve cover and adjust some valves today. Although what I want to start with today is pulling out this idle control valve, cleaning it up, and seeing if that changes anything. I know it's functioning, at least the circuit of it, because if I unplug it, the idle jumps really hard. Let's get this idle air control valve out of here. I surprisingly didn't shake it last time I removed it, which I always do on E46s or M54s. There's only two things that are guaranteed in this life. That's death and taxes. And I sure am learning that lesson hard this week. Well, it's moving. It just doesn't thump like the M54s do too hard, but let's clean it out. Sounds a little bit better, but I still don't think this is the issue. One interesting note that I did get from the Smog Tech though is that he says that the catalytic converter does look replaced. And he says that it's relatively small in comparison to original size catalytic converter you'd see on a car like this. So now I'm wondering, did someone replace it? Is it not a suitable replacement? And is it not filtering as well as it should be? That could definitely equal the hydrocarbons that we're seeing. Then I was also thinking, okay, do I just not have this thing timed correctly? But you know, from what I've read and what I've seen, which the timing instructions are kind of hard to follow on this car. They are all over the place, but I advanced it until it pinged, and then I backed it off until it didn't ping. Maybe we need to screw around with the timing some more. I really don't know. Honestly, I'm really missing OBD2 cars right now. It's what I've learned on, you know. Ever since I've been in the automotive industry, it's been on OBD1 and OBD2 systems, and OBD2 just comes a lot easier for me, whereas, you know, a lot of old heads, they're a lot more comfortable with carburetors, and so it's just kind of what you're used to. Let's fire this thing back up and see how it's running with the idle control valve sprayed out. That is really interesting. I've never had it idle this low, so maybe it was indeed stuck. It's kind of a little surgy. Well, I'm gonna go put it in gear and see how far the RPMs drop. That's really strange. Now this is making me wonder if the timing is off based off the idle speed, if the idle control valve was not operating properly when we timed it. Oh, the headaches just keep coming this week. I'm just looking for a win. So that's another one of my issues right there. Before I shut the car off right there, the idle was at 1100. I shut it off, fired it back up. After I fired it back up, now the idle's at 900. That's in park. When I put it into drive, it drops the RPM about 200. So before I shut it off, it was idling around 800. And now I shut it off, fired it back up, I drop it into drive, it'll come down to about 600. And then right there, see, it jumps back up again. So something is causing the idle to fluctuate up and down based off parameter. Now, one thing I've been curious about is when I have heard that idle increase or that idle decrease, it has usually been around the same time I've heard some sort of electrical click over here in this area of the engine bay. I haven't pinpointed it yet. I've been trying to catch it on video, but it has happened once or twice, and in previous episodes too, when I was asking you guys what may be causing that erratic idle increase. So I'm really hoping it isn't so, but I think there may potentially be something shorting out inside the engine bay, causing a secondary issue. Did you hear that tick? Because I sure did. So we're at about a 900 RPM, 1000 RPM at idle in park, which is brand new. I had that valve completely shut. There we go, a little bit of idle fluctuation again. I heard it. I heard it click, but it didn't come from over here. This fuel pressure regulator hose is pretty worn out too and showing some light signs of cracking, so it'd be nice to replace that too. Bitch! I heard it! Now before I go chucking a wrench at the wall over this idle issue, let's get this valve cover off and do a valve adjustment. Something I know I can knock out. So, valve cover's coming off and top end doesn't look that great. There's quite a bit of varnish on the valve train, but overall it looks pretty decent and the engine is relatively low miles, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. So this is my new feeler gauge set from Gear Wrench. I bought it off Amazon. I will put the link in the description down below for you guys if you're interested in one too. I'm going to take my 30mm socket and rotate the engine over till cylinder 1 is TDC. Now take a look at this exhaust cam lobe. It does have a little bit of pitting. I think it's because it's a flat tappet cam. Someone didn't use enough zinc in the oil at the very beginning. Now I'm measuring out the tolerances in these valves and I'm using a 0.008mm feeler gauge for this. And what I'm doing after that is I'm breaking the nut loose on that rocker arm, and on the tip of that rocker arm it has an eccentric lobe on it, which means that it's kind of like a cam lobe. One side is higher than the other, and so you bust that nut loose, and I'm taking a small like 3/32 Allen wrench and I'm putting it in this little slot on that eccentric cam lobe, and depending on which way you turn it, you increase or decrease the tolerance of that valve clearance. Now with cylinder 1 at TDC, I was able to do intake on cylinder number 2 and exhaust on cylinder number 3. Then I rotated the engine over to where cylinder number 4 was at TDC, and after doing intake and exhaust on cylinder number 4, I was able to do intake on cylinder number 3 and exhaust on cylinder number 2. So I technically only had to rotate this engine twice, TDC on cylinder number 1 and TDC on cylinder number 4. And I ended up adjusting these valves to 0.007mm total. So now I'm putting a little dab of gray silicone where that timing cover meets the cylinder head. Anytime I have that junction, I always put a little something. I didn't have Carol T, so that works. Gasket's down, and now we get to watch Sage get the zoomies with the little stick outside. I love when she gets like this and starts hopping around all crazy. She's 45 pounds now. She's growing up quick, but she's been such a good pup. She's so playful and has turned into a real good shop dog. Now we're getting the valve cover cleaned up, just getting the mating surface wiped off, and then I decided to take a wire wheel to the exterior, which I kind of regretted. I thought it was going to get some of this off color out of it, but it ended up just making this ununiform sort of shininess to it. I kind of got committed, so I had to keep going, and I ended up knocking it down with some Scotch-Brite, some red Scotch-Brite afterwards, sort of take some of the shininess out of it. I have plans to paint this, and so it's not too much of a concern, but it was kind of a pain. Who needs a washer? You need a washer. You need a washer. Valve covers, oil pans, pretty much anything when I'm doing the initial torque. I like to torque from the inside out, because if you do outside in, this can have a bow. So I do inside out, that way it spreads it flat. I don't know, 10? Let's fire this thing up, see how she sounds. Oh, just kidding. I forgot that there's a big fat vacuum leak. Got this hose right here. Wondering why it sounded funny. Let's try that again. Wow. Listen to those valves. Well, it sounds way better. Will it pass smog? I doubt it. Might still need a catalytic converter, but it sounds so much better. So I'm really happy with that. I mean, that is such a noticeable difference. Let's see what the idle's doing. Idle right now is 900 RPM. I'm gonna go take it for a drive. I've put 80 miles on this thing since fixing the odometer, and the radio is still staticky. The potentiometer is still acting up. We are family. All my brothers, sisters, and me. I gotta bump the idle up a little bit because when I'm in drive, it's a little stumbly. It's almost a little bit too low. I still don't know what a perfect E30 idle looks like though, you know? Is it 900 RPM? Is it in park or is it in drive? And do you guys with M10 engines, does it drop a couple hundred RPM when you put it in drive and put load on it? That's what I don't know. But it's got pickup. Check out this sick ass kickdown on this on-ramp right here. Oh, this Ford's screwing me up. They're cooking though. Ready? Woo-hoo! I mean, maybe I just register it as non-op and sell it out of state to one of you guys so I don't have to smog it. Because if it's a matter of me buying a catalytic converter to put it in here, it's gonna cost me too much money and I don't have that kind of money right now. I mean, it's running great. I did 90 on the highway earlier today while I was getting it warm for the smog shop. It's got its little hiccups at idle, but like for the most part, it's running really good. Look at that pickup. Oh. Look at that little puppy. Look at that puppy. That's one of the best feelings ever, is when a dog lays all its weight into your hand with her little snoot. Taco, taco time. It's gonna be fucking taco time. It's time for fucking tacos. I'll give you some window.
Hey, my friend, how are you?
Good, how you doing, man?
Good, buddy.
Can I do 3 carnitas street tacos and 1 chile relleno burrito?
¿Da chile relleno burrito regular or super?
Regular, please.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that should do it.
Okay, my friend.
I hope you guys enjoyed my last fluid flush video on this car. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was one of my best videos yet. Thanks, man. Have a good one. I'm thinking about deleting the idle control valve and see what that does. Trans is shifting really good with that AMSOIL trans fluid too. Idle is still a little high. Just watch, I'm gonna drop it into park. It's gonna be up at like 14. It's from me adjusting that screw. See, because even with the idle at 1500 like that, it's still getting an occasional misfire. You know, you can hear that pop, 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 pop through the exhaust stream. So guys, I don't know. I'm gonna go eat some tacos, edit this video up, and hopefully get it out to you guys pretty soon, because I want to hear your feedback. I need to know if you guys have any ideas on what this misfire idle issue could be coming from. I think deleting the idle control valve would be an interesting thing to do, and we can see if it changes how the vehicle runs at all. I also think that maybe we got some dirty injectors or something, and it's causing that little bit of an intermittent misfire. Valves are dialed in and it's sounding so much better. It's got fresh plugs, it's got a new distributor cap, new distributor rotor, new spark plug wires. Maybe it's a timing issue. Maybe we try to delete the idle control valve and then time it again. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have any good ideas. It's been a rough week, and I just wanted to chop it up with you guys, let you guys know where I'm at right now, and if you guys have any information. So now, before I sign off for the day, I got to give a quick shout out to Sonoran and also to Brandy for becoming members on my YouTube channel. Really appreciate you guys. Brandy, you're probably my top commenter of all time, and your support is just absolutely unbelievable. All you guys, viewers, subscribers, members, really appreciate the support. I have something really special planned for all of you after my BMW E30 build, and I think it's going to surprise every single one of you. So again, I just really appreciate the support. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed, or I hope you learned something new. And as always, folks, I will see you on my next day off. Cheers.